You're listening to The Girl Dad Show.
Welcome to Season 3 of The Girl Dad Show, where we explore the intersection of parenthood and entrepreneurial spirit. Join me and some incredible guests as we share tips and tricks for finding work-life balance and making a positive impact not only on the world, but also our families. Let's create a fulfilling life together. It's The Girl Dad Show, Season 3. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Girl Dad Show. Today is a Girl Dad Talk, and where I discuss my professional parenting journey in between amazing guest interviews with incredible professionals, leaders, entrepreneurs, building career while they're building family. And today is a special Girl Dad Talk because it is the New Year's episode. Happy New Year's. I'm very excited to be able to tell you this because I'm talking to you on the backside of 2023. Happy New Year's. I really, really do hope that it's an amazing New Year's for you and you are already off to an amazing start. 2023 has been an incredibly interesting year for all of us. And definitely for me, it has been probably one of the most challenging years professionally that I've ever had. And that has really spilled over into a, hardship across the board, right? Because that impacts so much of what we do. And it's very hard to partition your life in a way that doesn't permeate across the board. And it has been very challenging for me. And I will say in my anecdotal data of working with so many business owners, having Owners Club, talking to even more business owners through the community, and then just also networking with founders and small business owners, just as part of my daily life and ecosystem, I will say it's been a very challenging year for many people in the entrepreneurial space and also many people in the workspace. There have been quite a few layoffs, and as much as the market is holding and starting to calm down as it relates to employment rates and whatnot, I don't understand how it all makes sense because I have found over the last Q3 and Q4, so many people reach out, asking for help to find a job or find customers for their business. And I think that it has been very, very challenging for a lot of us. And just anecdotally from my experiential data with all the touch points that I have, I think that it's not relegated to just me. And I hope everyone knows that and hears this and finds solace in the fact that based on the fact that I can talk to so many people and I have access to so many business owners and people that across the board, there's been a lot of struggle. And so you're not alone. And 2024 should bring us a lot more changes. And we're going to see even more craziness as well because it's election year and there's still a lot of crazy things happening in the world. And who knows where the economy is going to go. Based on the last 3 years, it's been kind of strange. But I do think that the worst is behind us. And 2024 will bring on a new tide as it relates to professional normalcy and growth. So let's stay positive and stay optimistic and embark on 2024 in a more hopeful nature and really tackle the problem head on and start rejuvenated. Because for me, the way I see it is you really only have reaction that you can control. There's not much you can do to control the impact. At least not at my level of societal stature and income. But what you can control is how you react to problems. And so when life gives you lemons, you have to make lemonade. And that lemonade is a lot easier to make if you're optimistic about it. The chances of failing are there in both ways, both mindsets, right? You could be negative or positive. The chances of failing are still there. But the chances of succeeding are a lot higher if you're positive about it and you're proactive about it and you're thoughtful about it and you're well-intended about it. And so you might as well choose the optimist route and try to really, really figure out ways to find that hope and find that energy and find that positive enthusiasm, build that momentum and start building that success that you're striving for in 2024. I am very excited about 2024. I have started this new journey of building out my personal brand. I launched Always Han, and it is going incredibly well. So I have started building out this large ecosystem of businesses, and it's really fun to share some of this with more people recently. And I realized that there hasn't been much explanation on why, one, I built Always Han, and two, how all of these businesses fit, right? And I'd love to take a moment to just share that with you, just so you can just kind of join in on the journey and also understand how you could do this for yourself if it helps you. One, we didn't just launch Always Han willy-nilly. It's actually follows the same thesis and process of everything else. There was a bunch of tests that we did in July and August to figure out what mechanism and vehicle would help generate a good response in ROI. And so we did a lot of different marketing tests to figure out what our top of funnel could look like for a larger funnel building. And LinkedIn proved to be the best ROI. Obviously, these are very limited tests. They're not very exhaustive or sophisticated. But what we did was we started testing on different channels and different vehicles. And on LinkedIn, though, it was very interesting because we posted consistently for 2 weeks, all wide variety of content at wide variety of times. And the results were very immediate, and we also saw the traction very quickly. And what we realized was there were a lot of people doing it very, very successfully. And we started to buy courses and invest in knowledge and take the time to learn that space the most out of all the other channels and spaces. And once we figured out how we wanted to build this content, or I wanted to build this content with the help of my team, we started to build out like the content library of like what we wanted to post and how we wanted to post it and how we wanted to test this more rigorously. So there was a pre-test to figure out what channel and what strategy, and then there was the actual banking of the test that we're in right now. So we're currently launched and we're testing it now. And then because we're trying to keep the end in mind, we're testing to be successful at creating, LinkedIn content and creating a top of funnel. And so we built out Always Han, the website. So we had a place to bring that top of funnel success into a point. And so we didn't want to just build it just for the sake of building it. We wanted to build it to try to succeed. And so we created a funnel of a weekly newsletter where you can basically get weekly content distributed to you about my business building methodology. So every week I will email you one lesson that I've learned in business, one insight that I pulled from that lesson, and then one action item for you to start thinking about how you can learn and implement from that insight and lesson yourself. And it's just a weekly digest, and I just kind of parse out different lessons that I've learned over the last few years and decades, actually, and that has helped frame my owner's manual framework, my operating system, the way that I build businesses, and hopefully it helps you along on your journey. But the whole thesis for this was predicated on a test. And that test led us to this moment, and this moment led us to launching it. And so far, it's going really, really well. And so within a week and a half of launching it, we are seeing much better results than we anticipated. So we were expecting to get this, get good impressions, get good followers, get good email subscribers. We were forecasting, moderate numbers for growth. And it's already far superseding that. So we're hitting over 20,000 impressions a week, which is great. And I can see how that can go up even further as I continue to build, notoriety and write better content. Obviously, I can do a better job of building content or writing content. And we're already starting to see a huge uptick in people that are interested in the content, and then also seeing a much larger uptick in subscriptions to the email. And so it's been very, very exciting. And I'm incredibly grateful for the community and supporters and my ecosystem and network that have supported me through this journey and evolution of discovery and figuring out how this stuff works. And I am very excited to be able to share it in a much more concentrated and scalable manner. The last year was very tricky for me as I started to, find some successes in some of the businesses that I've built. I've had more and more friends reach out to me and family reach out to me asking me to teach them how they can do it. Obviously, I want to help right? Because I don't feel like I've fully figured it out, and so I'm still poor. I don't have cash, and a lot of these hard businesses don't generate cash immediately, right? They cash flow later on, unless you buy a high cash flow, a hard business. I mean, that's something that I'm going to try to do in the few years, but I need more money to do that. But if you buy, a business that's already cash flowing like $1 million a year, then it's easier for you to hire, professional team, and then also still have enough fat in there to play and optimize the business to grow it while also still paying yourself. But it requires a lot of money to even acquire a business that's cash flowing that much. On my side, I didn't start with a lot of money. And so I basically had to make the money to build the business to get it to the point where it can actually cash flow. And that cash flow isn't going to happen for me for a few years. And so it's been an incredibly hard process, and I'm still in it. And so over the last year, as I started to see some success for a couple of these things, I've had a really large amount of friends and family ask me to teach them how to do it. And obviously, I'm more than happy to share the knowledge that I'm learning, but I also haven't actualized the success yet. I'm still like a year away from actually cash flowing on my the first two or three businesses. And then it'll obviously scale and compound over time. But the reality is I'm not there yet. And so I track all my hours that I live, whether it's with family or sleep or who I work on, or what business I'm helping or what business I'm working on. I just track everything. And it just helps me with my strategic planning and my quarterly assessments of how I'm progressing on things, because I can track how much time I'm spending versus the results I'm getting. And so it's just something that I do internally. But I was spending over 200 hours helping people on something that I was still in the process of figuring out. And it was actually closer to 240 hours that I spent on it. And then the net result of that was that I think like 6 of my friends and family members actually did something. They actually started a business or tried something or made an investment or bought something, or, and 2 of them actually stuck with it. And it's not that I don't want to help, right? It's not that I don't want to give back, but I had to make the hard decision that there were too many people that were now competing with my time to achieve my goals. And those are 240 hours that I could have spent building my businesses and trying to build this full ecosystem that I, wasn't spending on it. And then the net result would have been fine if, I had more people that started this journey and this process, but the vast majority of them did absolutely nothing with it. And obviously no fault to them. And it's totally fine. And obviously I want to help and give advice as much as I can, but I had to make the realization that I could accidentally deviate or deter myself from hitting my goals by trying to be too generous and giving. And so it's been a really big journey this year and trying to figure out how to navigate this like kind of evolution of where I'm going through. And so I started Owners Club, and I started Owners Club in February, and I launched it in May, and I started charging people. So join the networking community. It's $1,000 a year and join. And it's been amazing because like 90% of people, just kind of went away naturally, right? And they just said, hey, it's not worth $1,000 a year to learn from you or get this knowledge. Great. Awesome. Perfect. And so now I have people that are actually like really serious, right? And I don't mind spending as much time as I can with them on Slack inside the private community, or any of the Owners Club members feel comfortable calling me or texting me. And I feel a lot more comfortable talking to them because I know that they're actually building and they're actually trying to do something. And it just feels a lot more useful in my time. But I also started to realize that this concept and system can be helping more people as well, because it's not just about the operating system that I'm using and that I created that I'm using that's useful for people that are interested in this. It's also the whole ecosystem, because I think that what people don't realize is that what I'm trying to actually build is a full ecosystem that allows me to build more businesses. And it's going to take me a good, 7 more years, but I think I can get it all done in 10 years. That's the goal anyways. But the idea is that I have an operating system that helps at a high rate of success a small business achieve $1 million in annual revenue. And so far, the average time frame, it usually takes about 14 months if you have a operating business that's already generating $200,000 to $500,000, right? $200,000 to $500,000. If it's starting from scratch, it takes a lot longer. or it takes a lot shorter, depending on how involved I am. And so the average, though, is about 14 months that we have so far based on all the businesses that we've worked with. And it's been over like 30 of them now. So we have like a lot of data. It's like over 3 dozen businesses we test this operating system on, whether that's through coaching or building ourselves. And so we're starting to add and get a lot more confident as we keep adding more businesses to the operating system to see if this works. But statistically speaking, it's anomalous, right? Because you have, I think the statistics in the US is that 60% of businesses fail in the first year and 90% fail in the first 5 years. And then less than 5% ever make more than $1 million. And so you're talking about a huge statistical anomaly that we're able to generate these businesses that are able to crack that threshold of that first bank, that first trough of business statistics. And so I'm pretty excited about it, right? And so I'm in the process of trying to continue to test it and figure out if it's real, and if I, figured out a methodology that helps people crack that, first hump, that first threshold. And the reason why I'm so in love with the $1 million annual revenue marker is because, when I think about a business and I think about it in an annualized term, the typical hard business, the small business or the hard business usually does about, conservatively 15% EBITDA, right? It's fairly safe to say that. It's typically more, but, on average, you can say 15% is a good number. And most, brokers or business consultants or business owners will say, yeah, sure. On average, I could see 15% being good. At $1 million in annual revenue, 15% is $150,000. That's enough money for you to live very, very well. It's also enough money for you to start considering hiring a professional manager to run your business with you and or fully for you and grow it while you start to cash flow off of it. And so I think the number one focus for me is to crack that code of like getting it past that $1 million mark, because once you get it past that mark, it opens up a huge swath of doors for the business owner and for myself if I own the business, right? And so singularly focusing on just getting it past the statistical anomaly of like failure and cracking that code to get to that point so that you could actually have a little cushion to have all these options and choices, I think should be the singular focus. For me anyways, I think there's a lot of business owners that are just happy making, a good living, doing the thing that they love. But for me, I want to get it to the $1 million mark so that I have the optionality of not doing the thing that I love or doing it when I want to do it. And I like that optionality, right? Of like being able to take myself out of being the product or the service. And obviously I would love doing what I do. I love coaching. I'm still business coaching as we speak. But I want the optionality of doing it and not doing it, because I truly do believe that like you can systematize it and you can build it, but you need some liquidity to do it. And so long story short, it's actually already a long story. So I'll go faster on the rest of it. The thought process is I have Owners Club to basically help you crack the code in getting to that marker. And during that journey, there's a system and a process that I have designed that helps you do that, but you still need a lot of different things to get there. And so there's a lot of things that you need to get past that hump. And so all these businesses surrounding it are in service of this ecosystem. So the reason why I invested in Honey and Hive is because they're an amazing digital marketing agency, but it's also because you need digital marketing to, build your customer predictability. You need it to actually like get your top of funnel going. And it complements the ecosystem. I also invested in Flipper Films because content and storytelling is one of the most powerful vehicles as we get into this huge like proliferation of like content and data, right? Like there's so much AI content coming out. There's so much stuff getting bombarded with us. And being able to clearly articulate that in video format is going to be super valuable for businesses. And they're incredible storytellers. And so that's part of the ecosystem. And I invested in them for that reason, because it serves my business needs. The next up leader is a sales training business. And it's incredibly valuable because one of the main things that people need is once you have the top of funnel, you have a great story, you have a great message, you now get customers and you need to learn how to convert them. And salesmanship is not a born trait for everybody, but it is a learnable skill. And so Isaiah has designed an amazing program that allows you to learn the functional skills and then practice it in one session and through these dojo programs. These programs that he calls dojos. And that's the reason why I invested in that business, because it feeds the ecosystem to the next stage of what you need. And I have aspirations to start even more services, right? Like something that has to do with finance, tax, and bookkeeping. That's a huge thing that all business owners need. I also have ambitions to eventually start something in HR to help with like the people scale process, whether that's recruiting or compliance or performance management. And then I'm now working with Plumeria to also work on change management and learning and development. So leadership development, management training, executive training, and change management for larger organizations. So I'm in the process of investing in that one as well too. But all this to say, it goes into the core business that I actually have that started all of this, which is FYA. FYA specialty is actually a system that we created. We call it BizOps in a box. But essentially what we do is we go into a company that's generating $1 million in revenue or seven figures, somewhere in the ballpark of seven figures. And we can very quickly help them get to the 10-figure mark. And we do it through this kind of system that we have designed over the last 4 years. But the first 2 years of consulting really helped me figure this out, because it's the same thing I did for every startup that I worked at, which is go in, do an analysis, figure out the market, do the interviews, figure out the internal strengths and weaknesses, do the SWOT analysis, and then build out a strategic plan and turn that strategic plan into an operating plan predicated on OKRs and SMART goals. And so we have our own way of doing this, but it very clearly lays it all out. And from there, we essentially become incredibly good program managers, and we project manage all the subset objectives, and then we program manage all of those subset projects as a program for the company. And then simultaneously, we're building out financial models to show the ROI expectations for each one of these theses or these objectives. And so you can kind of match and play with the lagging indicator of how much money is making versus how much money is coming in. And you can kind of like watch the objectives play out in real time, because we're constantly building out these models. And then lastly, we're building out dashboards and analytics that track all of this stuff, so that it allows you to basically in real time pull the plug on different objectives if they're not making you money or not working the way you planned, or double down on things if they are working, right? And so as you can see, if you can do these four things really well, it can start generating a lot of progress and milestones for companies. And it's an incredibly cool little system. And we call it BizOps in a box. And it's very popular, and we're fairly successful at it. Obviously, I've been able to fund all these businesses by doing this service, and it works really well. It's funny because this whole ecosystem allows for this company to get past the $1 million mark, and then now FYA can come in and then take that business and help them turn it from 1 million to 10 million using BizOps in a box. And so that is the grandiose plan. And that's why I launched Always Han last year, because I started to realize that I'm having trouble building up all these small businesses that feed into the ecosystem, because I'm spreading myself too thin. The plan makes a lot of sense, but I need to double down this year on actually feeding this business. And then inevitably I need to start feeding the whole machine. And so I realized that eventually my end goal, what would make me super happy, is if I have a business idea, I can literally grab that business idea, drop it into Owners Club, and then let it run through the gauntlet, right? All the way through FYA, and then have it be a successful business, be a self-incubator, like incubate my own businesses. But what I'm realizing is that it doesn't work that mechanically. And these businesses need a lot more attention, because they need nurturing. And I need to build the systems, the nuance, the context, the inspiration of the employees, or whatever that may be. But these businesses are not as stable because I'm moving too fast. And so this coming year, I need to really double down on them, which is why we came up with the genesis of Always Han. Because if we can create Always Han, a top level brand that I can start building now, in the short term, it'll allow people to understand what I'm building and the different companies that I'm working on. So if they also need those same services, which all business owners do, they need marketing. They need a good marketing. They need a good video production crew. They need a good sales training. They need a good change management and management training. They need all these. They need all these services, right? And so if I can basically show them that, hey, this is one that I'm building, I'm hoping that it'll generate more top of funnel for them to add on to their customer predictability efforts. And simultaneously, as I start to build out the full ecosystem and get all the services, while I can start putting in my companies in there, it also helps other people to dump their companies into the ecosystem as well too. And so it doesn't hurt to build out the personal brand, even if it's a 10-year objective for me, to start building it now, because that's all attracting the right people to me that understand and want to build businesses, but also want to learn and also want to be a part of this ecosystem. It's also attracting people to those respective businesses and that need those same services and understand intimately what I'm trying to do, and they are trying to do the same thing. So I'm building the company that serves that exact need during that stage of the company, right? And so there's just a lot of synergy as you think about why Always Han came up. And so I know that people ask me a lot why I'm stretching myself so thin, and I agree. So this year, 2024, is all about clamping down and really focusing on beefing up the infrastructure. But I did want to take a moment to share why I'm doing it. Why did I build Always Han? What is the bigger plan in play here? And how does it all fit and make sense? And so I think that that's really important for me to share at least once. I don't even know if it's important, actually. Now that I think about it, I kind of regret saying it, because now if I don't do it, it's going to feel really bad and awkward and terrible. But I just love building businesses, and I love building Blue Ocean. Like this is really great that it's on my hat right now, because, you know, it would have been so much easier to build this if I had Owners Club fully functioning and like rocking the way I wanted to. It would have been so much easier if I had Honey and Hive fully functioning and rocketing like the way I wanted to. If I had Flippered Films, it would have just been so much better to build this business. It was really good, but it would have been so much better, right? If I had all these things that every business owner needs, and it just had it dialed in. And you know, with a certain level of predictability, say, okay, I'm going to chunk in $5,000, and I know that in 3 months, this $15,000 value is going to come out. Like it's there, but it's not like systematized. It's not like tight yet. And so the end goal for me is to be able to build more Blue Oceans and be able to find things that just like bother me, and I want to know how to solve it better. And then I find out there isn't a good solution, so I can create my own, right? And I want to be able to like systematize the entire process of building businesses at scale. And so that's the end goal. And now I kind of regret sharing it, because I just like Babe Ruth and said that's where I'm going. And so hopefully I achieve it, and I'm pretty confident I will. I just need to take a slight detour this year to slow it down and really beef up what I have before I add on new things. And so 2024 is all about operational excellence and doing what I do best, which is building systems and beefing up infrastructure and tightening the rigor around the current businesses, so that I can actually start the process of building out more of these verticals and then finishing out the ecosystem. So that's 2024 for me. And obviously that's going to be really good, because, you know, focusing in on what I have and what I'm currently building is going to allow me the time and the energy to actually spend more time on my health and also my family, while simultaneously just making more money, right? Because this last year was really bad for money for everybody. And in this coming year, if I could just hunker down and stop expending so much money and just focus on making money and beefing up the operational rigor of these current companies, that'll inevitably make me more money. So 2024 is going to be all about replenishing my coffers, spending more time with my current businesses, and building up better systems and spending more time on my health and my family, and just kind of building it out so it stabilizes a little bit, gives me a little rest and reprieve. And then 2025, I'll go back to my 10-year plan of building out the rest of the ecosystem. So that's kind of where I'm doing that and why Always Han started. Okay, let's jump over to a couple of questions. So we also have asked some of our users, sorry, I'm in business mindset here. So we have asked some of our listeners to send in some questions, and I am going to take this opportunity in the New Year's to answer some of them. And I'm going to try to do this more often in the Girl Dad Talks, but for now, I'm going to try to take a couple of them so that I can answer some of the guest questions that have been coming in, because I've been really looking for ways to give back more pertinently and also make this podcast more valuable for y'all. So if you have a question, feel free to message it, email it to young@thegirldadshow.com, or you can comment a question in any of our social media posts and our team will grab it and aggregate it. And periodically, we'll also release surveys. So you can always ask questions in any way you can. And I'll do my best now to answer them in every Girl Dad Talk episode. So please keep them coming. This episode of The Girl Dad Show is brought to you by you. We have been working very hard to bring you the best guests and content to the show and have been steadily growing month over month. And we're finally ready to start talking to businesses that want to partner with us to promote on our show. So if you know anyone that would be interested in having me promote their business on The Girl Dad Show, please email us at young@thegirldadshow.com. Thank you for your support and look forward to learning how to be a great parent together. All right, so question 1. When your dog died, how did your girls take it? And at what age did you introduce the concept of death, and how did you explain that to your kids? Jeez Louise. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. All right. We're really going for the jugular here with these questions. Okay. So, first off, incredibly hard time for me. I had a really hard time losing Chloe, and much more than the other two. Actually, it's kind of strange. I think it's because there's like a pack, and then I lost the whole pack with Chloe, and so it's a pretty hard loss for me, and I took it pretty hard, mostly because I don't know. I just they're my original ride or die. Like I've known my dogs longer than I've even known Amy, who I've built this whole life with. And so it's a very, very emotional journey for me to lose Chloe and lose my Doxy pack, right? And I think that to answer your question, so that's first, and then to answer your question, the girls are fine. They were sad, and obviously there's a lot of things that they have questions around, and but Amy has been talking to them quite a bit about it, and we've also talked to them, and I say Amy because Amy's the one that's educating them on this much more than me and taking the time to explain what that means and what that looks like. But we've also had these conversations with them for years because we lost Megabyte and Ellie 2 years ago, and in sequence, right? So we lost them 9 months apart from each other. So even at the age of 3, Lily was already starting to get educated on it. And then Grace, by the time she was 2 or 3, started getting educated on it. And so they have a general concept of what it is. And then we've also talked to them about death quite a bit because, once a year we're super Asian and we go visit my parents, and we wear the Korean hanbok, and we go visit our ancestors at the graveyard, and we do the traditional ancestral Thanksgiving practice, and we pay our respects to our ancestors, we pay our respect to our elders, and do the whole thing, right? And so they know the concept of death, and they've known it for their entire life because every year on New Year's we go and do the traditional Korean thing. And so it's something that's always been a part of their life. And so I think they understand it pretty well. And it's just always been baked in. They just have always been exposed to this concept that, people die and death is real and it happens. And we honor our ancestors and our dead. And so I think they're fine because of that. And that's kind of how I feel like I can answer this question. So hopefully that helps answer the question of how we have handled it and how we have worked through it. And that's kind of it. And they're also young. And so I think that they're not fully I don't know. I just think that there's just a lot of things that are going on in their little brains right now. And I think that they're sad, but then they're also immediately happy because, Paw Patrol has a new movie, right? I think there's just a lot of things going on in their brains. So I think if they were a little older, it may be a little harder for them. But as of right now, it's fine. And we talk about it and we'll make comments and we'll try our best to listen. But it seems overall like it'll go fairly smoothly. Okay. Second question. You mentioned in your birthday episode, you have a way of assessing people in your life. How do you do that? And how do you actually cut people off without feeling guilty? Oof. This is tough. Very, very tough. And I started this practice a few years ago on this journey to try to figure out how to build a better life for my family and I, right? And I started to realize that I was so, limiting in my belief in what I could do. And I was kind of a victim, and I'm sorry, I'm really placating it. I was a victim, right? I always thought it was someone else's fault that I wasn't successful and I wasn't able to achieve my goals. There's no kinda. I was. and I didn't have the confidence to say what I wanted or thought was right, even in business settings. But I was smart enough to articulate it and share it, but not confident enough to force it through. And so a lot of these ideas that I had would sometimes get used, sometimes they wouldn't. And then in hindsight, when I think about like why I did that is because I had a fear of failing. And when I did inevitably fail, I would always blame other people. I had a reason to blame other people for not listening to me because technically I did say it, even though I wasn't forcing it through or being confident in it. And so I realized that I was incredibly damaging to myself. And I also realized that, there was a lot of that sentiment, just in the people that I was hanging out with. And when I started to, interview people to figure out how other people lived, and I interviewed 100 people that had high net worth because I was trying to figure out how to change my life. And so many of the people were just like, their mindset was just like so different. And there's no like sense of blame. It's like they have the same troubles and the same problems that I did. They just reacted differently to it. And they thought about the problems differently. And even just through the process of interviewing 100 high net worth people, I started to change my mindset just by being exposed to them so much, like the way that I thought started to change. And I started to realize how powerful it was for my psyche to like have an echo chamber that like basically permeated this different mindset. And I have to go back to what my mom has been telling me since I was a kid. I mean, she always said it. She's like, choose your friends wisely, choose your friends wisely. Pick the people that you want to be around. Pick the people that you want to be like and you want to be known for. Like the people that you associate with are a representation of you. And she would say all these things. And, as a 12-year-old or even as a 16-year-old, I'm like, no, these are my boys, my ride or dies. And, just trying to be cool. They're like gangster, they're cool, or they're hip, or they smoke and they do these things. And you think that they're going to be your best friends forever. And the reality is that some of them I'm still friends with, but you evolve and you change and your brain is incredibly malleable. And if you surround yourself with the right people, I don't care who you are. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 6 years. If you keep hanging out with artists, you're going to become an artist. You keep hanging out with woodworkers, you're going to become a woodworker. You keep hanging out with business people, you're going to become a business person. I don't care who you are. It's going to take 3 months, 3 years, 30 years. I don't care. If you keep hanging around the people that you want to be like, you will become like them. Because what happens is that it becomes very, very contextual. You start to learn about what that is to be that thing that you're surrounding yourself with. And then you start filling in data points. But more than anything, after you start to fill in the data points, you get some baseline knowledge of what it is that they do and they think about. You start to become very comfortable, and that comfortability becomes very approachable. And then that approachability gives you the confidence to make it think that it's not a big deal. And so then now you're like, of course I should start doing art. Like it's easy. Like everyone's doing art. And so I found this out, way too late. I'm like, I found out when I was 40 that my mom was right, the entire time. And so, Mom, if you're listening to this, thank you. You were right. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you when I was young and dumb. But I'm 40 and I learned it. And although I feel like I learned this lesson way too late, I'm making up for it by being incredibly judicious about it. And so to answer this question, how do I do it? I literally go through like the people that I have met this year, the people that I associate with, the people that I hang out with, and I try to quantify the benefit and qualify the benefit of that person. And I know it sounds terrible because it sounds insanely transactional, but you have to do this exercise, or I do this you don't have to do anything. I do this exercise. And I try to find people that are going to feed me and move me forward and are helping me grow. And so that I can invest my time in their growth and their benefit, and they can invest their time in my growth and my benefit. And I want that ecosystem to be very, very intentional because I just don't have time. Like I now know how to make money. I don't know how to make more time. And so the time that I do have, I just want to be very, very articulate, because if it's not being spent making money for my family, I want to spend it with my family. And if it's not with my family, you better be damn sure it's going to be time spent actually building my mindset and my ecosystem. And so it's super important for me to be very judicious about that in this stage of my life, because I have so much need of time, and I need that time for my family. And so I'm very callous about it. And so I don't like shun people out very negatively, but I'll identify what is detracting them. And so I'll have I'll have a conversation like this at least half a dozen times a year, where I'll talk to my friends and I'll ask for permission to give them honest feedback. And I'll share with them that, hey, you have been an amazing friend, and I enjoy these aspects of our life. At this current state, what you're doing is you are complaining about the same problem over and over again. And although I understand that this is a real problem, I don't see you actually trying to solve the problem. And it seems like you're more interested in complaining about the problem than solving the problem. What I need you to do is try to solve the problem, or at least let me help you solve the problem, and I'll work with you on that. But let's start figuring out ways to like come up with a list of things to try and start working towards it to solve for it. If you don't want to do that, I totally understand. But I need to start extricating myself from our time spent together, because I don't want to hurt your feelings, or I don't want to make you feel bad about yourself, but I just don't have the time or capacity to keep talking about the same problem or just complain about the problem. I need to focus on building my business and my livelihood for my family and for myself. And I hope that, when I finish solving all my issues and my own problems and building what I want to build, I'd be more than happy to come back and be your friend again and listen to you complain about the same problem. And it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. And I will tell you, 90% of people like literally don't want to be my friend afterwards. It's absolutely true. And my wife hates it. She hates the person that I've turned into, and she makes her incredibly uncomfortable, because now we've been together for over a decade. So we have a lot of mutual friends. Right. But I think it's very important to do. And I know she doesn't like it and she's very uncomfortable with it, but it's a short term, right? Like I just need 5 years, 10 years to actually get to a place where I can then go back to not caring about this stuff, because I can totally just be, enabling of your behavior, because I'll have the capacity and the time. I'll have the time for it, right? But right now I'm too old. I don't have time to compound money. I need to make a lot of bets and be very judicious about the time that I do have to make this all work quickly. And so I tell my wife all the time, it's like 3 years of hardcore focusing on the goal, and then that should allow us a huge level of time back that I can then be much more of a normal person and just allow people to be normal and be around us, that are normal. And that's kind of how I do it and how I justify it and my thought process on it. And so hopefully that answers your question. Oh man, I'm gonna stop answering questions, because I feel like I'm starting the new year off looking like a total asshole. But I'm not. I'm not. I'm begging you to believe that I'm not. I promise. I love people, and I don't want you to stop asking me for help or talking to me, because I think that it's not like I'm perfect at this either, right? I'm figuring it out. I'm constantly trying to do the assessments on an annual cadence, but and I'm probably wrong. Honestly, I'm probably wrong. And this is a much more complex problem and question to solve for. And most likely I'm wrong, and my wife is probably right. But for me, I want to singularly focus on building, a cash flow assets that generate time for me. And I want to do it very, very fast. I want to do it by 45, and then by 50, I have different milestones. And so I want to be able to spend a vast majority of time optionally with my kids as they head into their teenage years. And it's very, very important to me. And I'm singularly focused on it. And I'm not going to allow, I'm going to try my best not to allow people from deviating from that goal, because it's going to be hard enough to achieve it as it is. I don't want to feel guilty about trying to do this for my family. And so I'll find out in the future if I was right or wrong, but at least I'll have the time to figure it out in the future. Gosh, sounds such an asshole way to start the New Year's episode. But thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Girl Dad Show. This has been another Girl Dad Talk. I hope it has helped you on your journey. Although now I'm really questioning whether I should even release this episode, because it is way out there and then way too callous of an episode. And Amy, if you're listening to this, I'm really sorry for sharing how I think about life and people, because I know you hate this part about me. But thank you again for tuning in. And as always, feel free to share any questions or comments that you want to unpack or want to know. I'm happy to answer it as best I can. In every Girl Dad Talk, we're going to start ending it with a couple of questions and answers. So email me, young@thegirldadshow.com, or just comment on any social media post that you see, and I will do my best to incorporate it and start answering this as we go. Thank you again, guys. I'm super excited for 2024. I'm excited to see what you guys do. I'm excited to share with you what I'm doing. Let's make 2024 amazing. I'm wishing you unbelievable health, wealth, and happiness this year. And let's get back after it and get recovered from 2023 and have a wonderful year. Thank you for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time. Thank you for listening to The Girl Dad Show. Please take a moment to follow us on social media. You can find us at The Girl Dad Show on all major platforms. We look forward to staying in touch and keeping you up to date with all the new guests that are coming out.